Hey everybody, welcome back for another video. In this video, we're going to talk about using the lower body properly and how to turn properly with the lower body to start our downswings. So a lot of times, people tend to think about or hear about using their hips first in a downswing. Turn your hips, fire your hips, let everything else follow. Well, that's all fine, but most of the times when people think fire the hips, it means from the top of their backswing, all they do is spin their hips. When they spin their hips, what happens is you actually don't push against the ground properly, which is a critical part of making a powerful downswing. And not only actually, it's a critical part of any explosive movements. Whether it's jumping, whether it's throwing something fast, you need the feet to interact with the ground properly. So if all you do is fire the hips, your feet actually won't be engaged in firing against the ground. They're just going to come along for the ride. So we have to think about it actually in the opposite sense. To fire your hips properly, you actually have to push against the ground properly. So to illustrate this, to learn this, what you can do is grab a piece of cardboard, anything that will help lose friction between your foot and the ground. You can see I can turn my right foot very easily here as a right-handed golfer. So my trail foot is going to go on this piece of cardboard. If I do the same thing, you can see my trail foot doesn't slide at all. But because the cardboard is helping me reduce the friction, it's very easy to illustrate how you should be able to push against the ground. So what you're going to do here is you're going to put the club across your shoulders, you're going to turn to the top, and from here, when you turn to the top, the cardboard shouldn't be moving yet, okay? You turn to the top and you stop at the top of the backswing. From here, if you fire your hips like most people normally do without pushing against the ground, you can see my trail foot turns counterclockwise towards the target as a right-handed golfer. I don't want my foot turning towards the target, because if I do that, all I'm doing is spinning my hips and the foot follows. My trail leg is not, there's no push, there's no grab with the ground. We want to grab the ground, we want to push so hard and aggressive into the ground. That's what torques the hips around. So you can see if I do it properly, from the top, if all I do is push against the ground, you can see my trail foot slides, it slips because of the loss of friction. My trail foot is pushing into and against the ground away from the target, and that's what torques my hips going towards the target. So again, from here, all we're going to do is rehearse the start. There's no need to go into the finish because I don't want that foot sliding around. All you're going to do in this drill is have that piece of cardboard under your trail foot, turn to the top, stop, and just push in and against the ground with your trail foot for that first little bit. You can see my lower body goes, my upper body still stays steady. A lot of the times, if you're an upper body dominant player, if you do this, you can see that foot will slide towards the target as well. So let's say I do a couple times. Let's say I start doing this 10 times. I feel, okay, that's how I do it. That's how I push into and against the ground with my trail foot. Then I'm going to try to recreate that. And you can see, if I can recreate that, my hips start turning towards the target much easier with a little bit more zip to it. And two, my trail knee doesn't collapse into my lead knee anymore. A lot of times people, you see their knees collapse, okay? If you squat properly in just a squatting movement, your knees don't collapse. If you jump, your knees don't collapse. If you jump and your knees collapse, your form is a little bit off, you're going to hurt yourself, and you're not going to maximize your power. So if we're trying to maximize our power, making an effective and efficient golf swing, we want to be able to use the ground properly. Knees will be slightly separated, not because we're faking it, but because it's a reaction to us pushing into and against the ground properly with our trail foot. So let's say we have the transition down. Let's say you can feel that trail foot push into and against the ground, and that's what's opening our hips up. Then from there, you can let that continue and react into the finish, into squeezing glutes, squeezing core, tall and extended, shoulders back, chest out finish. That's going to help you learn how to push into against the ground and react back up, feeling the hips drive, the hips extend, pelvis punching the screen, and you're really going to get nice lower body movement to start the downswing. You're going to feel engagement in the glutes, back of the legs, all of that good stuff. So Again, just to reiterate, you're gonna grab that piece of cardboard, whatever it may be that will help you reduce the friction. You turn to the top, and all you're gonna do to start is that first bit of your downswing where you push into and against. We don't want your trail foot to rotate towards the target, because that's not what we want. That's just spinning the hips. There's no push with the right foot or the trail foot. We want the trail foot to be very active and engaged so that when we eventually start swinging the golf club, we can then try to replicate the same thing where the trail foot pushes into and against the ground. So it's going to look like this very slowly here. I'm going to make a backswing and let the trail foot do all the work in the downswing. And I feel my lower body working properly. So hope that makes sense. You know, if you want to turn your hips properly, think of it as a reaction to your feet pushing against the ground. If your feet pushes into and against the ground properly, your hips are going to torque towards the target properly and away from the direction your foot's pushing. So try that out. Let your feet dictate how your swing works. Don't let your hips dictate it, and we'll see how it goes. So any questions, just leave in the comments below, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks, guys.